Don't have messed up, no. Bad news is to beat your home, nigga. Yeah. Go on, get on that ass real quick one time. 144, baby.
They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said, of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, me whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this Lord, so that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our core. Wait up, let me make a call right quick. I'ma start another war. I was hurting when she left, but I don't care about any part. I need a Vaseline like my Nina Puffer bar. Took a Zach, watch the dark. Matter of fact, like a dart. Any problem, let them come. We gon' snatch they soul like Shang Tsung. Put them out of service, keep them tools like Miss Harper Free. Try to hold me, it's way too late. I'm headed straight to the safe. Throw that one up like a trophy. I'm that nigga, ain't no debate. Told them boys we taking note. Call them up like set the date. This shit a piece of cake. Yeah, my bitches came from Whole Foods. Told them put on that top 3. Then bring me my house shoes. Don't make excuses, make moves. These niggas ungrateful, gotta show them U.P.K rules. I'm making hits like I can't lose. They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, me whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this Lord, so that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our core. Yeah, I just got off the call. I'ma start another war. Spit a plate up with my niggas, get your knife and your fork. He ain't locked in with the count and with you speaking to me fart. Yeah, I just took the floor. Ain't no cowards in my campaign. They can't stop the campaign. Tell them bring the champagne. They know I'm a champion. They can see the outcome. Get them niggas bad, got them tied down and out there. Can't do with them steppers, niggas been down since day one. We run up the bands, bitch like Dylan. They say you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. Yeah, about to go dumb, yeah, bitch, we whole cart. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, so that bitch is either or. I told you niggas, you ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our car. And I just made the call. We gon' start another war.
Kill the beat.
I don't know who, somebody need to hear this. Y'all don't speak Hebrew, that's Yiddish. How the fuck you try to label us anti-Semitic? We the Israelites, blacks, native Hispanics. The Germans getting locked up for the Holocaust. Meanwhile, black people still up in the Holocaust. 100 million of us died in the transatlantic. 6 million died, y'all want the world to never forget it. You can never be a Jew, you a Ashkenaz. This ain't a star dum-dum, a gun die or die. Yeah, Yeezy told the truth and got ostracized. Not one person in the Bible had on a yarmulke. We was slaves in America like we was in Egypt. Y'all don't even fit the curses in the Torah neither. Y'all was blind to the truth, I had to make it clear. How Jerusalem, your land, your people came from Europe. That was 1947, your menorah got 9 sticks, it's really only 7. Yeah, it's us against the world, Armageddon. This what happened when you inherit lies from your ancestors. Y'all the synagogue of Satan with them black hats. Your whole nation sitting ducks, Aflacs. Bunch of thieves and culture vultures, ain't nothing kosher. To tell the truth, you vagabonds don't have a culture. Macedonia, Alexander and Philip, you a convert, so tell me, how the fuck is you Israel? That don't make you the people just cause you litter. Why my people can't hate your people like y'all hate Hitler? All the prophets was black and was called nigga. Y'all don't even fit the description that's in the scriptures. Abraham, all the way down to Jacob, we the real Jews. Y'all don't study Christ, y'all follow the Talmud. Keep it real, yeah, let's keep it real. Cold hard truth, it give you chills. Say y'all Jewish cause y'all ain't really them. About to do them like Hammond, it's the Feast of Purim. U.P.K undefeated, this an easy win. We was born fighting, y'all the evil twin. Jacob took hold of his heel, then out came his little red bass and they kosher deals. It's only 12 tribes, y'all trying to make it 13. Esau despised his birthright, the Lord cursed him. He ain't the devil, who is? I'm still searching. Ask your rabbi why he get them babies herpes. I don't know what's worse, that or you claiming that you a Maccabee. I'm about to cancel, everybody try to cancel ye. I ain't afraid to speak, that's what I do. They riding to the core, I'm just judging them by their fruit. Cause they ain't suffering curses. If I was carnal, I promise I'd punch you in person. I know this an uncomfortable subject. They making millions off our culture and black people suffering from it. Yeah, they don't believe in Christ, they the Antichrist. Make a living off of niggas, they a parasite. I ain't afraid to tell the truth, niggas terrified. I'm about to go DEFCON 4, I ain't satisfied.
That is proof. That is absolute proof that they know we are the real Jews. That's absolute proof. Now you got the records. Go find me a white Jew on any archaeology in Egypt anywhere. You will never find a piece of archaeology with white people as slaves in Egypt. So don't tell me that they were slaves and it's their identity, and they know it. And I know the blasphemy of them, which they are Jews. The Lord knows the blasphemy of you so-called white people that say you are Jews and you are not Jews. You are not the people of the law. You are not God's chosen people. God's chosen people are living in the ghettos of America. God's chosen people are in poverty and depression in the streets of America. God's chosen people are walking around in America with no identity. That's where...
Yeah. You ready? Nah, I mean, is you ready? Somebody ready for war? That easy. Lights is up. Wise man mad. They ready for war. Been in all blacks is a trooper. Plan, plot, strategize, crucial. Gotta pick a side, no neutral. In the middle of a war as usual. Watch your back, they shoot. If your ops drop, better keep it moving. All we do is win, no losing. In the middle of a war as usual. In the middle of a war as usual. In the middle of a war as usual. Plan, plot, strategize, crucial. In the middle of a war as usual.
Hey, listen, brothers and sisters, man. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, man. Subscribe to this channel. And also, please, go to ISUPK.com and pay your tithe. Drop me some cash so we can move around this planet like we need to, man, and do the things we need to do.
Everyone west. Everyone west. Everyone west.
Hey, shalom, y'all, Bashan Shabrak Thumb to all the brothers, Yahweh Shamala Thumb, Bashan Yahweh Shai to all the sisters. I'm priest and officer 500 Barak Yalla with the I.S.U.P.K. Started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander John YAHANNA, you understand? And again, the history classes schedule have changed because the white man is the devil, but nonetheless, the work do not stop. And tonight's topic is about the wickets, the origins of the wicked celebration. A lot of y'all, damn near most of y'all, will partake in Tuesday night, Wednesday as well, which is the so-called New Year celebration, right? And here's the thing, in the I.S.U.P.K, we provide you what nobody else, not the church, not your schools, your colleges, or any institution provides you, which is the truth. The I.S.U.P.K is the home of the truth. You will get all the universal and practical knowledge that you need and you lack outside the I.S.U.P.K. Tonight, you will get to understand the roots and origins of the so-called New Year celebration. You'll get to understand that really, no matter how proud of a so-called Negro or Latino or Native you are, you really follow the white man. And you're a hypocrite saying that the Bible is a white man's book, which is the reason why you reject it. But next week you will celebrate New Year's. And you only celebrate New Year's because the white man told you so. You understand? And this is what we're getting into tonight, right? And you not only going to understand where this pagan celebration comes from, but also some of the nonsense or some of the, stupid superstition and traditions of New Year that you still partake in. like like eating black eyed peas, or in a lot of Hispanic countries they eat grapes and all types of nonsense like that, which is culture that we adopted from our oppressor. Look, I want to say shalom to everybody in the chat. Yabashin Sharaktam, Yawashamal Tham Bashim Yawashai, to everyone in the tuning in the chat. You understand? Mr. YAHANNA. I speak in Indianapolis. I see my brother Kodash Yala. Right, but let's get into it. Let me share my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. Anyone has any question or comment, obviously put it in the chat. So let's go into the pagan origins of New Year's Eve. And yes, something might be redundant, but here's what you need to understand. Every single empire, from the Roman, the Greek, the Egyptian, copied the empire that was preceding them, or the previous empire before they were in a position of rulership. Today, the modern day Caucasian empire that we're in today, America, copied from the Romans, who copied from the Greeks, who copied from the Egyptians, who copied from the Babylonians. Find out that damn near all the so-called modern day holidays or celebrations, such as Valentine's Day, whatever, all go back to Babylon, right? So first of all, the ancient Babylonians are said to have been the first people to make New Year's resolutions some 4,000 years ago. You understand? Nothing is new under the sun. What you do today is because heathens did in the past. You understand? All your traditions, modern day traditions, none of you outside the I.S.U.P.K actually observe your culture. You observe other nations' culture, which includes those so-called New Year's resolution, which you never even respect anyways. This next week, you're going to have the resolution of stop smoking cigarettes. You're going to be smoking crack or whatever you be smoking. Next week, you're going to want to get married or, you know, be in a good relationship, and you're still going to be a whore. And if you're a man, you're still probably going to be half a homosexual or whatever the case is. Your New Year resolution mean nothing, and it never meant nothing. And you got that from the Babylonians. We're going to see where it came from. Right down the line, you're going to see that their New Year resolution, which is one of yours, was to pay the debt that they owed to people. They owed money, and they said, next year I'm going to pay it back. Most likely they never did, just like you are still not doing today. This is why the bills are piling up. So the ancient Babylonians are said to have been the first people to make New Year's resolutions some 4,000 years ago. They were also the first to hold recorded celebrations in honor of the new year. Though for them, the year began not in January, but in mid-March when the crops were planted. We're going to see why New Year is celebrated as well next week on the 1st of January, right? But it was not always like that. The Babylonians never even did that. You're going to see who implemented the new year in the dead of winter, which absolutely makes no sense, right? During a massive 12-day religious festival known as Akitu, the Babylonians crowned a new king or reaffirmed their loyalty to the reigning king. They also made promises to the gods to pay their debts and return any objects they had borrowed. Whoever borrowed money from you even last week or for the Christmas presents, last Wednesday, is not going to give it back to you next week. Probably will never give it back to you. So forget about that New Year's resolution of paying your debt and getting what you lend to someone, because it's not going to happen. These promises could be considered the forerunners of our New Year's resolutions. If the Babylonians kept to their word, their pagan gods would bestow favor on them for the coming year. If not, they would fall out of God's favor, a place no one wanted to be. Understand this, though. The gods of the heathens, even the scripture says that they don't mean nothing, right? What is it in the book of Jeremiah chapter 2 and 11? These gods really are not gods. They Muslims worship rocks. Since the day of the Babylonians, people see the sun, and because it shines and it brings warmth, they worship the sun. The stars are beautiful, they worship the stars. It's because it's a shiny thing. You understand? Just like a shiny bird, just like a bird or a crow or a raven sees something shiny and is impressed and wants it, the heathens did the same thing. They're not more than, they're on the same, they damn near have the same level of intelligence as a bird. Even birds are smarter than them because birds don't worship shiny things. They collect them. Heathens worship shiny things. You understand? And their gods mean nothing. As a matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 11, where it says, Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 11, had a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? Listen, the Babylonians, the Ishmaelites, all the heathen nations, what they worship is they worship the wind. They worship rocks. The Egyptians that our people like to cling to worship animals. You understand? All these gods mean nothing. The East Indians worship cows and rats. Not one rat is going to protect the East Indian from a plague, from a landslide. The elephants are killing the East Indians. Not one of them is protecting them. Their God is not a God, is not a power or authority. The only one God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the children of Israel, the God of the Bible. Right? So whether they respected their New Year's resolution of not, of paying their debts, whatever the case is, God is not with them anyways. The only reason they would prosper over us is because God was not with us if we disobeyed him. Who's us is the Israelites, who were held captives by the Babylonians at one point. You understand? Let's go back to the slide. A similar practice occurred in ancient Rome after the reform-minded Emperor Julius Caesar tinkered with the calendar and established January 1st as the beginning of the year, circa 46 BC. Here's where you get the 1st of January from to celebrate the so-called New Year's, because Caesar said so. Who's Caesar? A white man. You celebrate New Year's on January 1st because the white man told you to do it. He told you this is the new year, according to him. Because the white man said so, it must be valid, right? Well, guess what? The white man made New Year on January 1st. Why? Because he worshiped another pagan god that he decided to worship out of nowhere. You understand? And around 46 BC, this is when they made it official that January 1st is going to be the new year. As a matter of fact, January and February are 2 months that were added to the calendar. We never used to have 12 months. We used to have 10 months. And those two were actually the last months of the year. But they made it the first 2 months to worship their God. So the practice that they got from the Babylonians, they just remixed it their way. But it's the same exact practice, even though the Babylonians celebrated the New Year's during March, right, during spring. They decided to celebrate New Year's January 1st and named the month of January after their God, which we're going to see. Hey, SHALAM, sis, Yahweh Shema, Thabashim Yahweh Shai. Go to the next slide. Salakia. Named for Janus, the two-faced god whose spirit inhabited doorways and arch, January had special significance for the Romans. Believing that Janus symbolically looked backwards into the previous year and ahead into the future, the Romans offered sacrifices to the deity and made promises of good conduct for the coming year, which is, again, the new resolutions, right? And we're going to see that even their god Janus was adopted from a Babylonian deity, or more like a semi-deity, right? Everything goes back to Babylon, even though they remixed it their own way. In the time of the Babylonians, there was only 10 months, hence the reason why you have so like the beginning of the month, such as October, November, December. The prefix of these months in Latin, October, octo, is for what? September is for 7, October is for 8, November is for 9, December is for 10. There is no prefix for January, and there's no prefix for 11 and 12. Because January, which was named after Janus, and February was named after another pagan god, I forgot, were the last 2 months. We're going to see that they made these months, the first 2, just to worship Janus and the new beginning of the year. That's why it became the first month, right? And again, you look at what you did the previous year, hoping to change in the coming year to do better, because Janus had 2 faces. He was looking at the past. He was looking backwards at the past to see what had happened. He was looking towards the future, which is in the coming year, to see what's going to happen and hope for better. And again, the Romans did what? The Romans offered sacrifices to the deity and made promises of good conduct for the coming year. Good conduct for the Romans was just drunken orgies. That's Roman good conduct. You understand? And conquering land. That was Roman good conduct. Salakia. For early Christians, the first day of the new year became the traditional occasion for thinking about one's past mistakes and resolving to do and be better in the future. Again, those New Year's resolutions go back to the Babylonian Empire. This is their custom. Romans, just like the Greeks, the Romans just kept those Babylonian practices and remixed it their own way, and implemented some of their own traditions. They came up with some stupid and they implemented it. That's it. In 1740, the English clergyman John Wesley, founder of Methodism, just for y'all so-called Methodist Christian, right, who think y'all have the truth, y'all just as young as 1740, created the covenant renewal service most commonly held on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, also known as watch night services. They included reading from scriptures and hymn singing, and served as a spiritual alternative to the raucous celebrations normally held to celebrate the coming of the new year. Now, popular within evangelical Protestant churches, especially African American denominations and congregations, watch night services held on New Year's Eve are often spent praying and making resolutions for the coming year, which is hilarious. Why? Because New Year has nothing to do with the Most High. As a matter of fact, God hates your New Year celebration because he never commanded it to be observed. Not once. Nowhere in the Bible it says to pray for the new year. Nowhere in the Bible it says that New Year is on January 1st. The Bible tells you when New Year is, as a matter of fact. You understand? So if you want to use the Bible, you want to pray and hold watch night services, you're going to have to prove that according to the Bible, this is what you should do on New Year's Eve, December 31st to January 1st. You're not going to be able to. Why? Because that's nowhere in the Bible. Let's get real quick. Salakia. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Right? Exodus chapter 12. Let's go to verse 1. Bear with me for a second. Exodus 12 and 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, verse 2, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. This is speaking to the Israelites, to the nation of Israel. This is the new, what is the first month of the year, or what you would call the new year in the Bible. Verse 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Let's jump down to verse 14. Salakia. For those who know, it's talking about the Passover, right? Verse 14. And it says, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. The new year is not supposed to have changed to January 1st. The new year is the month we celebrate the Passover. That's the first month of the year, not January 1st. And if you want to pray as a Methodist or whatever denomination of Christianity or Catholicism you are a hypocrite, and you really follow white people, because that's nowhere in the Bible that you have to pray on January 1st because it's the new year. You understand? Nowhere. The Bible tells you when the new year is. Exodus chapter 12 tells you that this is going to be the first month of the year. This is where we got delivered from Egypt, and we celebrate and observe the Passover for the first time, and that we're supposed to do so forever and ever after throughout our generations, wherever we are. You understand? It says forever throughout your generations. For the fake Israelites that say we can't celebrate the Passover because we don't have a temple, we're not in the land. The first time we celebrated the Passover, we were not in the land. You understand? But this is the point is that this is the new year. You want to know when the first month is when we celebrate the Passover. That's the first month of the year. And the only reason that you're celebrating or you're observing or regarding January as the first month of the year is because of Julius Caesar. You understand? Salakia. Let's go real quick to Amos chapter 5, verse 21. Because apparently Methodists wants to pray for the new year. Well, let's see what God says about you praying for the new year. He doesn't give a damn. Amos chapter 5, verse 21. I despise your feast days. Is this the Most High feast day? Did the Most High commanded January 1st to be the new year? No, he didn't. I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. The Most High doesn't give a damn about your New Year's party, about your family reunion. He hates it and he despises it. You understand? So, again, your prayers, I'm just going to paraphrase, your prayers are an abomination to him because you're not supposed to celebrate New Year's on January 1st. Right? Let's go back to the slides. There is a comment in the chat. Someone asked, is this a Black Hebrew Israelite group? This is not a Black Hebrew Israelite group. This is the I.S.U.P.K, the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. You understand? Hebrew is a language. Israelite is a nationality. Salakia. In the Gregorian calendar, which is the one we observe today, New Year's Day is the first day of the calendar year in 1st of January. Most solar calendars, like the Gregorian and Julian, which is the one previous to the Gregorian calendar, begin the year regularly at or near the northern winter solstice, while cultures and religions that observe a lunisolar or lunar calendar celebrate their lunar new year at less fixed point relative to the solar year. Why it became a solar calendar? The solar year, because they started worshiping the sun. That's it. In pre-Christian Rome, under the Julian calendar, the day was dedicated to Janus, god of gateways and beginnings. God of gateways, where you go from the old year to the new year. It's then like you transcend to a year. You go through the gate of the new year. That's why they call him the God of gateways and the beginnings, because, that's why they dedicated the beginning of the year to him, for whom January is also named. From Roman times until the middle of the 18th century, the new year was celebrated at various stages and in various parts of Christian Europe on December 25th, on the 1st of March, on the 25th of March, and on the movable feast of Easter. Just know this, New Year was never considered worldwide on January 1st. That's fairly brand new, by the way. You understand? And this just shows you that you really don't know what is your culture. Because you think observing New Year is been a tradition of old. It's really not. On January 1st, it's really not. Because even when the Romans implemented New Year on January 1st, after they made up 2 months, not everybody was following the culture of the Romans. You understand? That just came down later on. In the present day, when most countries now using the Gregorian calendar as their civil calendar, 1st January, according to Gregorian calendar, is among the most celebrated of public holidays in the world, often observed with fireworks at the stroke of midnight following New Year's Eve, as the New Year starts in each time zone. Other global New Year's traditions, including making New Year's resolutions and calling one's friends and family. The Gregorian calendar is the calendar used in most parts of the world. It went into effect in October 1582, following the papal bull Inter Gravissimus issued by Pope Gregory XIII, which introduced it as a modification of and replacement for the Julian calendar. So the calendar we use is not even 500 years old. You understand? We haven't been using this calendar for what, less than 1,000 years. And who implemented it? The Roman Catholic Church, white people. The principal change was to space leap years differently so as to make the average calendar year 365 days long more closely to basically it's about the leap year. That's it. You understand? Now, the Julian calendar is a solar calendar, right? Both of them are solar calendar. The only difference is that they just, how would you say, for lack of better words, calibrated their new year, their leap year, right? But they were worshiping the sun. That's why they call it a solar calendar. The Julian calendar is a solar calendar of 365 days in every year, with an additional leap year every 4th year without exception. The Julian calendar is still used as a religious calendar in parts of the Eastern Orthodox Church and in parts of Oriental Orthodoxy, as well as the Amazigh people, also known as the Berbers. Slovakia. Now, the Julian calendar was proposed in 46 BC, which is the year Caesar implemented January 1st as a new year, by Julius Caesar as a reform of the earlier Roman calendar, which was largely a lunisolar one. It took effect on January 1st, 45 BC by his edict. Caesar's calendar became the predominant calendar in the Roman Empire and subsequently most of the Western world for more than 1,600 years, 1,600 years, until 1582, when Pope Gregory XIII promulgated a revised calendar. Just know this. We're going to see it right now, as a matter of fact, right? Shalom, Jacob, Yabash, and Shabbat. Thought word for tuning in. The ancient Babylonian calendar was lunisolar, and around the year 2000 BC began observing a spring festival and the new year during the month of Nisan, around the time of the March equinox. Even though the Babylonians also worshipped the sun at some point, right? They never changed the new year they never even invented 2 months for the new year, and never changed the new year to winter. They still celebrated the new year when the year actually changed, when the season actually changed, right? The early Roman calendar designated 1st of March as the first day of the year. And they still, and even when the Romans took power, they still observed the new year in spring until they decided to switch it. The calendar had just 10 months beginning with March. That the new year once began with the month of March is still reflected in some of the names of the month. How? You're going to see. September to December, the 9th through the 12th months of the Gregorian calendar were originally positioned as the 7th through the 10th. Septem, in Latin for 7, that's why it's called September, is supposed to be the 7th month. Octo for 8, October, Novem for 9, and December for 10. Roman mythology usually credits their second king, Numa, with the establishment of the 2 new months of Januarius. It's written with the I because the letter J only came by accident down the line, I think, during the Middle Ages, right? And Februarius. These were first placed at the end of the year, but at some point came to be considered the first 2 months instead. Why? Because their god Janus is the god of the beginning. So for them, it would make sense that the month that they name after the god of the beginning would be at the beginning of the year, even though it's not. And for those, there's a big myth that actually July and August are the months that were added to the calendar. No, July and August were just renamed. July after Julius Caesar, in August was just renamed after Caesar Augustus, right? Their name used to be Quintin something, Quint for 5th month, and 6th. I'm gonna show it to y'all real quick, right? Okay, let me share my screen. The months that were added were January and February. July and August were just months that were renamed after the Caesars. If you see right here, the months of July and August were renamed from the Roman months Quintilis, Quint, which signifies 5, and Sextilis, which signifies 6, in honor of the Roman emperors Julius Caesar. This is where we got July, and Augustus Caesar, where we got August, right? That's really it. It was renamed in 44 BC for July and in 8 BC for August. But these were always there. The months that were added were January and February, right? Let me go back to the slides. So Januarius, or January, fully mensis Januarius, which means month of Janus, was the first month of the ancient Roman calendar, from which the Julian and Gregorian calendar month of January derived. It was followed by Februarius, or February. In the calendars of the Roman Republic, Januarius had 29 days. Today has 31. Why? Because they just reformed it to make it more, for lack of better words, calibrated because of the leap years that they came up with, right? Today, February only has 28 days and 29 every 4 years. 2 days were added when the calendar was reformed under Julius Caesar in 45 BCE. So the only reason why it has 31 days, because the white man said so. Again, our oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of. Devil meaning he's a deceiver, he's a liar. He made you believe that the last 2 months became the first 2. They had 29. He said they'll have 31. And then he kept on lying and making up stuff as they go, which is what heathens do all the time. That's why they worship rocks. That's why they worship frogs. And that's why they worship crocodiles. And apparently they worship a two-faced man, which we'll see where they got it from. In the oldest Roman calendar, which the Romans believed to have been instituted by their legendary founder Romulus, the first month was Martius, month of Mars, or March. And the calendar year had only 10 months. Januarius and Februarius were supposed to have been added by Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, originally at the end of the year. which lets you know that even in the first place, March, or the month where we have spring, this is where the year begins. In February, which is the last month of winter, was always where the month ended. It is unclear when the Roman reset the course of the year so that January and February came first. They're the one who made those last 2 months of winter the first 2 months of the year. Why? Because they're the devil the Bible speaks of. January is conventionally thought to have taken its name from Janus, the dual-faced god of beginning, openings, passages, gates, and doorways. But according to ancient Roman farmers' almanacs, Juno was the tutelary deity of the month, which is incorrect. You're going to find out that Juno, this is where we get the month of June from. The January calendar January, which just means the month of January, which is when they start the month. The start of the month of January came to be celebrated as the new year at some point after it became the day for the inaugurating new consuls in 153 BC as a result of the rebellion in Hispania, which is modern-day Spain and Portugal, which began the Second Celtiberian War. Romans had long dated their years by these consulships rather than sequentially, and making the calends of the January start of the new year aligned this dating. So before, that's how they knew when the new year was, just like we know when the new year is as we celebrate the Passover. They knew when their new year was based on the councils they were having. Still, private and religious celebrations around March, around the March New Year's, continued for some time, and there is no consensus on the question of the timing for 1st of January status. Why? Because not everybody was celebrating the Roman New Year. Not everybody was worshiping Janus. The Roman world maybe, but outside of the Roman world, who was worshiping Janus in South Africa? Nobody. Once it became the new year, however, it became a time for family gatherings and celebrations. A series of disaster, notably including it became the time for family gatherings and celebrations, which is why you gather with your family, because the Romans told you to. New Year's in the older Julian calendar. The Julian calendar proposed by Julius Caesar, which is why it's called the Julian calendar, right? Even this is why you have the month of July, because it's named after a white man, just like damn near everything else. Proposed by Julius Caesar in 46 BC, was a reform of the Roman calendar. Why? Because the Roman calendar, again, was still a lunar-based calendar based on the moon, while Julius Caesar, they were worshiping the sun, so they made it a solar calendar. It took effect 1st of January 45 BC by edict. The calendar became the predominant calendar in the Roman Empire. Subsequently, most of the Western world for more than 1600 years. Now, the acceptance of 1st of January as New Year's Day, again, is still fairly new. Most nations of Europe and their colonies officially adopted the 1st of January as New Year's Day somewhat before they adopted the Gregorian calendar. France changed the 1st of January from 1564. Most of Germany did so from 1544. The Netherlands, 1556 or 1573 according to the sect. Italy did so on a variety of dates. Spain and Portugal, 1556. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, 1599. Scotland, the 1600s. We mostly celebrated New Year's on January 1st since slavery. It was not official, right? If you were not following the church anyways, if you're not part of the Roman Empire, you damn near did not even know there was 2 extra months. You understand? But officially, as the grip they had over the planet started expanding, people started adopting and following them more and more. That's why everybody started following the new year, even before the Gregorian calendar. Why? Because the world did not need a reform from the church to change the calendar to adopt Roman practices. They always did before the Pope Gregory, the 13th or the 14th. And even Russia from 1700s or 1725. England, Wales, Ireland, and Britain's American colonies adopted the 1st of January as New Year's Day from 1752. That's when y'all were slaves in the plantations. That's where they decided, you know what, we're going to observe New Year's on January the 1st. And you still do because the white man told you so. Now let's see about Janus, which this is a depiction of the two-faced god Janus, looking back at the past and looking forward at the future, right? So like, if y'all could bear with me once again, I'm just going to grab a water bottle. Bear with me real quick. Slovakia. Hey, Shalom, for tuning in. Now let's go into who is Janus, the god that you worship, or y'all will worship next week. So again, in ancient Roman religion and myths, Janus is the god of beginning, gates, transitions, which is why you look at the past and you transition into the future. Look at the previous year transitioning into the new year. Time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He's usually depicted as having two faces. The month of January is named for Janus. According to ancient Roman farmers' almanacs, Juno was mistaken as a tutelary deity of the month of January, but Juno is actually the tutelary deity of the month of June. Janus presided over the beginning and ending of conflict and hence war and peace, which is again why, as we've seen earlier, the previous slides, what was the good actions they were hoping for is to conquer more land and pillage more territories that they were going into, right? The gates of a building in Rome named after him, not a temple, is, as it often is called, but an open enclosure with gates at each end, were open in wartime and closed to mark the arrival of peace. So even during wartime, when they open a gate and they close it, it was in honor of their god. They were hoping that their god can transition them into victory, right? And could make the wartime become a peaceful time, which is really just them winning, right? As a god of transitions, he had functions pertaining to birth and to journeys and exchange. And in his association with Portunus, a similar harbor and gateway god, he was concerned with traveling, trading, and shipping. Janus had no flamen. A flamen is what? That's the name of the priest that they had, or specialized priests, sacerdos, assigned to him. But the king of sacred rites, Rex Sacrorum, Rex means kin in the Latin, right, himself carried out his ceremonies. Janus had a ubiquitous presence in religious ceremonies throughout the year. As such, Janus was ritually invoked at the beginning of each ceremony, regardless of the main deity honored on any particular occasions. Every time they worshiped a god or whatever, they always paid homage to Janus. While the ancient Greeks had no known equivalent to Janus, there is considerable overlap with Kolsans of the Etruscan pantheon. Even though they didn't have an equivalent necessarily, all of their gods go back to Babylon. They may have implemented over time additional traditions, but it all goes back to Babylon. The etymology Janus, the name of the god Janus, meaning in Latin arch passage or doorway, which is why he is the god of passages and doorways and such, stems from the Proto-Italic Yanu, meaning door, ultimately the Proto-Indo-European Inu, or passage. You understand? Now, his function as god of beginnings has been clearly expressed in numerous ancient sources, among them most notably Cicero, Ovid, and Varro. As a god of motion, Janus looks after passages, causes actions to start, and presides over all beginnings. Salakia. Since movement and change are interconnected, he has a double nature symbolized in his two-headed image. You understand? That's why he has two faces. You could see the past transitioning to the future, and so on and so forth. He has under his tutelage the stepping in and out of door homes, the Yanua, which took its name from him, and not vice versa. Similarly, his tutelage extends to the covered passages named Yani, and foremost to the gates of the city, including the cultic gate of Argiletum, named Janus Geminis or Porta Janualis, from which he protects Rome against the Sabines. Why? Because, again, he is the god of transitioning. If the enemy of the Roman transition into their city, he's supposed to protect the Romans. Well, I mean, that's what they believe, which is nonsense. He is also present at the Stororium Tegillum, where he guards the terminus of the ways into Rome from Latium. He has an altar, later a temple near Porta Carmentalis, where the road leading to Veii ended, as well as being present on the Janiculum, a gateway from Rome out to Etruria. Everywhere there's a door, he presides over it. That's the point. He presides over it, and he's presides over the actions from whoever's coming into the door, what they're doing after crossing that door, and the outcome, whatever, so on and so forth. So if they lose a battle, Janus was not with them. If they win a battle, Most High in Christ, Janus protected them. You understand? The connection of the notions of beginning, principium, movement, transition, and thence time was clearly expressed by Cicero. In general, Janus is at the origin of time as the guardian of the gates of heaven. Jupiter himself can move back and forth because of Janus's working. For those who don't know, Jupiter is damn near like one of the top gods in Roman mythology, right? Hey, Shalom, sis, Yahweh Shema, Thabashim Yahweh Shai. But even the number one god, such as Jupiter, has to answer to Janus. Jupiter is not moving without Janus. You understand? In one of his temples, probably that of Forum Holitorium, the hands of his statue were positioned to signify the number 355, which is the number of days in the lunar year, which is changed later to 365. Why? Because the white man is the devil, symbolically expressing his mastership over time. So they're going to blame them adding days because Janus said so. Janus doesn't exist. They just make things up as they go. That's it. He presides over the concrete and abstract beginning of the world, such as religion and God and the gods themselves. He too holds the access to heaven and to other gods. This is the reason why men invoke him first, regardless of the god they want to pray to or placate. Which is why when they worship other gods, they always pay tribute or homage to Janus first, because he's the number one god for them. So without Janus, there's no other god. He is the initiator of human life, of new historical ages and financial enterprises. According to myth, he was the first to mint coins, and the first coin of the liberal series bears his effigy on one face. Some old, Roman coins had the face of Janus on it. That's really what it says. Why? Because they worship a god that really they worship nothing. God of change, which, by the way, again, this is what you worship next Wednesday. Janus frequently symbolized change and traditions, such as the progress of the past to future. From one condition to another, you hoping to be rich next year is you worshiping Janus. From one vision to another in young people's growth to adulthood. He represented time because he could see into the past with one face and into the future with the other, which is absolute nonsense. It's the only reason he had two faces. They say he's looking at the past and the future. Well, guess what? If that's the truth, right? Why didn't the Roman predict their demise? Why didn't the Roman told their children that they're going to go in chains when Christ comes back? Because their God don't mean nothing. Apparently, if he did, clearly something was wrong with Janus because he did not see the future of the Caucasian race. And all these Roman babies are still running around. He didn't tell them they're going to go in chains when Christ come back. Clearly, their God either didn't exist, he was made up, or really he ain't crap, he ain't shit. Salakia. Hence, Janus was worshipped at the beginning of the harvest of planting times, as well as marriages, deaths, and other beginnings. So you just worship throughout every single event they were having, right? We could skip this one for time's sake. They're just basically saying Janus was the number one god, right? Can we skip this one real quick for time's sake? Now let's go into this one, yeah? So according to Macrobius, who cites Nigidius, Figulus, and Cicero, Janus and Jana, which is Diana, right? Another pagan deity, are a pair of divinities worshipped as Apollo or the sun and moon, whence Janus received sacrifices before all the others, because through him is apparent the way of access to the desired deity. If you don't go, if you don't ask Janus first, you don't ask any god. Why? Because Janus is the number one. A similar solar interpretation has been offered by A. Auden, who interprets the god as the issue of a long process of development, starting with the Sumeric cultures. Listen, they got that from the Babylonians and the Sumerians. That's the point, right? And they just renamed all the deities and renamed all the practices. From the two solar pillars located on the eastern side of the temples, each of them marking the direction of the rising sun at the dates of the two solstices. Why? Because they're worshiping the sun. The southern eastern correspond to the winter and the northeastern to the summer solstice. So let's see if we can read more about that. We can skip this. Okay, skip this one as well for time's sake. Salakia, let's go right there. So the beginning of the day. I'm just skipping some slides for time's sake, right? Y'all could read, y'all could look into Janus and the pagan rituals and worship. There's no specific ritual for Janus. It's just all Roman rituals really is just a drunken orgy on a specific day, right? They always had drunken orgies, but they named a day where you had to have that drunken orgy. And then they implemented other stuff like wishing luck to each other and, you know, looking into the past and making New Year's resolution. But there's nothing specific to Janus apart from observing New Year on January the 1st. So the beginning of the day, morning belongs to Janus, and men starting their daily activities and business. Horace calls him Matutine Pater, morning father. In Dumezil, which are just scholars, believes this custom is at the origin of the learned interpretations of Janus as a solar deity. He was not the first. He was definitely not the last solar deity. It's just the Roman name they gave to their solar deity for January. Janus was also involved in spatial transitions, presiding over home doors, city gates, and boundaries. Numerous toponyms of places located at the boundary between the territory of two communities, especially Etrurians and Latins or Umbrians, are named after the gods. So all the gates, Janus presides over the gates of cities and doors, as we've seen earlier, and over the actions that whoever transitions that gates and the outcome. The most notable instance is the Ianiculum, which marked the access to Etruria from Rome. Since borders often coincided with rivers and the border of Rome with Etruria was the Tiber, it has been argued that its crossing had a religious connotation. It would have involved a set of rigorous apotropaic practices and a devotional attitude. Janus would have originally regulated particularly the crossing of sacred river through the Pons Sublicius. The name of Ianiculum is not derived by that of the god, but from the abstract of Janus, which is the same. Let's go down here. However, Janus was the protector of doors, gates, and roadways in general, as is shown by his two symbols, the key and the staff. The key was a sign that the traveler had to come to harbor or a fort in peace to exchange his goods. Right? We could skip this one. Salakia. We can skip this one. That's just a myth that Romulus kidnapped a Sabine woman. Sabines, they came to fight the Romans, and Janus caused volcano eruptions and saved the Romans, which is nonsense. So there we go. We're going to see where Janus was adopted from the Babylonians. The association with non-Roman gods. So, Roman and Greek authors maintain Janus was an exclusively Roman god. Why? Because white people appropriate stuff and make it their own, and they make it seem like they're the originators of everything. The claim is excessive according to R. Schilling, at least as far as iconography is concerned. But a god with two faces appears repeatedly in Sumerian and Babylonian art. We're going to show you that god. So the ancient Sumerian deity Izimud was commonly portrayed with two faces facing opposite directions. Sumerian depictions of Izimud are often very similar to the typical portrayal of Janus in ancient Roman art. If you see in the picture, Izimud is the one to the far right. You're going to see, we're going to show you a better picture, but you see where he has his two faces. Yeah, and this is where the depiction of Janus from. Unlike Janus, however, Izimud is not a god of doorways. Instead, he is the messenger of Enki, the ancient Sumerian god of water and civilization. You would want to remember Enki. Why? Because Enki, you're going to see who is Enki. He's the father of, what's his name? Marduk, which is the god they worship during the festival of Akitu, which is the original New Year of the Babylonians, which they adopted over time and just remixed it on January 1st. Everything goes back to Babylon. Everything. And where's Enki? Enki is the one in the middle, which we're going to talk about as well. Who is a homosexual god, by the way. So this is Izimud, as you could see. He's the god with two faces, right? Who's also a sodomite. He's wearing a dress. Another depiction of Izimud with two faces, which is where they got Janus from. You understand? So, going to Akitu real quick. Akitu, which is the earliest recorded New Year's festival, which is where they adopted most of their practices from the New Year. So although the Chinese New Year is ancient, it is not the earliest recorded New Year's festival. The record dates back to ancient Babylon some 4,000 years ago. It was deeply intertwined with religion and mythology. For the Babylonians of ancient Mesopotamia, the first new moon following the vernal equinox, the day in late March with an equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded the start of a new year and represented the rebirth of the natural world. Even as heathens, they have more common sense than white people. Then you cannot have the new year in the middle of the same season. They were seeing the new year when the earth starts to flourish again. You understand? The rebirth of the natural world. This is why they were also having most of the calendars, as a matter of fact, before the Romans, were lunar. They just started worshiping the sun. Why? Because it's hot and it brings heat. That's it. And it shines in the sky. Heathens worship anything that looks good to their eyes. Right? We're going to bring that out. It was in the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13. It looks good. It makes them feel good. They'll worship it. That's it. And we're back in captivity today because we decided to follow after idiots who worship rocks and donkeys. You understand? They marked the occasion with a massive religious festival called Akitu, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in spring, that involved a different ritual on each of its 11 days. So they had an 11-day celebration for the new year. They called it Akitu, derived from the Babylonian or Sumerian word for barley or wheat. During the Akitu, statues of the god were paraded throughout the city streets, and rituals were enacted to symbolize their victory over the forces of chaos. Through these rituals, the Babylonians believed the world was symbolically cleansed and recreated by the gods in preparation for the new year and the return of spring. In addition to the new year, Akitu, it was misspelled right here. It's actually Akitu, not Atiku. So Akitu celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat, and it served an important political purpose. It was during this time that a new king was crowned, or that the current ruler's divine mandate was renewed. One fascinating aspect of the Akitu involved a kind of ritual humiliation endured by the Babylonian king. This peculiar tradition saw the king brought before a statue of the god Marduk, stripped of his royal regalia, slapped, and then dragged by the ears in the hope of making him cry. They stripped him naked and they beat him up, and if he cried, Mosiah in Christ. If royal tears were shed, it was seen as a sign that Marduk was satisfied and had symbolically extended the king's rule. See, this is the thing. Heathens do stupid things and they think, it means something, right? But that's good night. That's crazy work. To be stripped naked and to cry is a good sign that the God is satisfied, and now you can rule more. Listen, good night. Let's see who Marduk is. Marduk, right, is a god from ancient Mesopotamia and patron deity of Babylon. He's one of the top gods of Babylon, who eventually rose to power in the first millennium BC. In Babylon, Marduk was worshipped in the temple Esagila. His symbol is the spade, and he is associated with the Mushusu, some Babylonian stupidness. By the first millennium BC, Marduk had become astrologically associated with the planet Jupiter, right? He was a prominent figure in Babylonian cosmology, especially in Enuma Eli's creation myth. Marduk, along with the city of Babylon, was unimportant and sparsely attested in the third millennium BC. We're going to see that Marduk, he was not even a top god in Babylon at first. They started worshiping Marduk. I think it was, we're going to see that, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. That's when he became a popular god. He was not even the top god at first. He was really a nobody. Which shows you what? that heathens make up stuff as they go. That's it. The earliest mention to Marduk comes from a fragmentary inscription, most likely dating to the early dynastic second period. It is left by an unnamed ruler of the city of Bar Kibar, which is likely Babylon, who constructed a temple for Marduk. A text from the Pharaoh period seems to mention Marduk without the divine determinative, and a fragment of a god list from Abu Salabik contains Utudamar, likely Marduk written with reverse sign order. A dubious reference to Marduk in the Ur third period comes from the possible personal name Amar Sin is the star of Marduk, although Yohanna suggests the god Marduk, who appeared together with Enki and Damgalnuna in the Ur third period, could possibly refer instead to the similarly named Marduk, who is otherwise missing in Ur third documentation, as Martu is later attested to have different parentage, which is Anu and Urash, and Marduk is later considered the son of Enki or Ea. Again, who is Enki? He's the god that we see next to Izumud in the picture earlier, right? Which is another Babylonian god, which is just made up stuff. If so, there could be evidence that Marduk was already part of the pantheon in Eridu in the Ur third period. In the old Babylonian period, while Marduk is acknowledged to be the ruler of the people, there's no evidence that Hammurabi or his successor promoted Marduk at the expense of other gods. He did not mean anything at first. He was just, a regular rock, not a special rock for anyone. You understand? Salakia. Enlil was still recognized as the highest authority, and Marduk was far from being the pantheon head. So before they worship Marduk as the top god, Enlil, which is another pagan deity, this is the one they worship as their top god, right? Instead appearing to be a mediator between the great gods of Hammurabi. This is also expressed in his inscriptions from Hammurabi's successor, Samsu Iluna, expressing that he receives Enlil orders through the other gods such as Ishtar, Zababa, Shamash, and of course Marduk. A key development during the old Babylonian period was the association of Marduk with the pantheon of Eridu. Marduk was syncretized with Asaluli in the later half of the old Babylonian period, and the opening of the code of Hammurabi identify Ea as the father of Marduk, Ea or Enki, a genealogy that will remain canonical. God lists from the old Babylonian period sometimes places him within the circle of Enki, which is exactly the same god under a different name. Let's see if we could go there. Salakia, for time's sake, let's skip this one. There are two administrative documents from Nippur from the reign of two Kassite kings, perhaps Nazi Marutash and Shagaratki Shuriash, that mention the celebration of Akitu festival connected to Marduk. Another text claims the late Kassite king Adad Shuma Sur embarked on a pilgrimage from Babylon to Borsippa and Kuta, Marduk, Nabu, and Nergal, respectively. However, these are reasons to doubt the historicity of these texts, especially the alleged journey of Adad Shuma Usur, since the trio of Marduk, Nabu, and Nergal fit the ideology of the first millennium BC. Nonetheless, the text could be evidence that the rise of Marduk was a gradual process that began before Nebuchadnezzar I. Yeah, I think we're going to see it. It wasn't until Nebuchadnezzar III that he actually became an important god. Before that, Marduk was a nobody to the Babylonians. Similarly, in the god list An or Anum, the number 50, Enlil's number was assigned to Marduk instead. So they replaced Enlil as the top god to Marduk, and then they worshipped him and made the Akitu festival about Marduk. Salakia, by the time of the Izin second dynasty, an established syncretism of Babylon and Nippur, and by extension Marduk and Enlil, was in place. The names of the city walls were switched, with Imgur Enlil and Nimit Enlil in Babylon, while Imgur Marduk and Nimit Marduk were in Nippur. A first millennium bilingual hymn to Nippur links Babylon and Nippur together. Nippur is the city of Enlil. Babylon is his favorite. Babylon and Nippur, their meaning is the same, which is when, listen, they're about to replace Enlil with Marduk. Let's see. The ideology of supremacy of Marduk is generally viewed to have been promoted by Nebuchadnezzar I and his successors. Nebuchadnezzar's second campaign into Elam, which is all the East Indians, the Pakistanis, the Afghanis, and the Persians in them, and the return of the statue of Marduk that was carried off to Elam by either Shutruk Nahunte and his son Kutir Nahunte in 1155 BC is thought to be the trigger. This is why they started worshiping Marduk over there, which they still do celebrate Akitu in some of these countries next to Afghanistan and Iraq. Why? Because these are the Elamites, and this is their culture that they've been worshiping for thousands of years. However, there are chronological problems regarding the abduction of the statue by the Elamites. As the statue of Marduk abducted Tukulti Ninruta wasn't returned yet by the Assyrians before the Elamites sacked Babylon in 1155. Johnson suggests that Tukulti Ninurta could have taken a different statue of Marduk, while the main cult statue was taken by Tukor Nahute. While Banai believes that immediately following the return of statue of Marduk, a second invasion by Kuter Nahute carried off the same statue. This is how they got a statue of Marduk. They ransacked the place. That's the point, right? Nonetheless, beginning of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, acknowledgement of Marduk's supremacy over other gods was now the norm, because Nebuchadnezzar made Marduk popular over Enlil. And that's why he was worshipped during Akitu. Understand? And all the mythology of him being the son of Enki was passed down. And who was Enki's right-hand man was I.S.U.P.K, the god with a two-face, which was adopted as the god of past and beginning by the Romans. A Kuduru dating to the reign of Nebuchadnezzar claims that Marduk, now the king of the gods, directly dispatched Nebuchadnezzar and gave him weapons. And in the epic of Nebuchadnezzar, it is Marduk who commanded the gods to abandon Babylonia. A Kuduru from the reign of Enlil calls Marduk the king of the gods, the lord of the lands, a title that Enlil traditionally held. They just replaced Enlil with Marduk, and they said Marduk helped Nebuchadnezzar win fights. Let's go down a bit further. Salakia. So let's go into Akitu. Akitu is a spring festival and New Year celebration held on the first day of the Assyrian and Babylonian Nisan, which is the name of their first month, in ancient Mesopotamia and Assyrian communities around the world to celebrate the sowing of barley. Right? So, which is the day they celebrated, the 11 days they celebrate, they worship Salakia. They worship Marduk, the son of Enki, who was the master of I.S.U.P.K, which we're getting into right now. So who is I.S.U.P.K, the two-faced god that the Roman copied, was a Mesopotamian god regarding as a divine attendant of the god Enki, who's Enki, the father of Marduk. He was depicted with two faces. No references to temples dedicated to him are known, though ritual texts indicate he was worshipped in Uruk in Babylon. He was also incorporated into Hurrian and Hittite religion. In myths, he appears in his traditional role as a servant to Enki. Salakia. Attestations are available from between the early dynastic and late Assyrian periods. However, no temples dedicated to him are mentioned in known texts. He's irrelevant. In the first millennium BCE, Isimun received offerings in building rituals. Salakia, let's see, we could go down to the last sentence, which is the relevant part. He is mentioned, for example, in descriptions of the Akitu ceremony. In this context, he formed a trio with Nuska and Papsukal, just like, what's his name? Just like Marduk as well formed a trio with the gods of his time. They're just remixing everything with the same gods. That's it. Enki, who was the master of Izimut, is the Sumerian god of water, knowledge, crafts, and creation, and one of the what they call the Anunnaki. Listen, you want to mention anything about the Anunnaki or superhumans or aliens? Listen, you're not doing anything that was new. They believe in stupid shit, Salaki. They believe stupidness during the Babylonian time. You just repeat the same exact stupidness they believed. That's it. The Anunnaki, Enki, the Anunnaki is a gay Babylonian god. This is you're gonna see one of his stories is similar to some of the Egyptian gay gods. Why? Because they copied each other and just renamed the gods after with their language. That's it. He later was known as Ea or Ai in Akkadian religion, and is identified by some scholars as Aya, a Canaanite religion. The name was rendered Eos in Greek sources. Again, the same God, the same entity, the same deity, and they're a different name depending on the region and the people who worshipped him. He was originally the patron god of the city Eridu, but later influence of his cult spread throughout Mesopotamia and to the Canaanites, Hittites, and Hurrians. Guess what? This is one of the gods that we were told to destroy his altar during Deuteronomy chapter 7. The gods of the Canaanites and the Hittites we should never worship. He associated with the southern band of constellations called stars of Ea, but also with the constellation I.S.U.P.K, or the field, which is the square of Pegasus. All these is the same exact thing, worship of Babylonian deities. Beginning around the second millennium BCE, he was sometimes referred to in writing by the numeric ideogram for 40, occasionally referred to as his sacred number. The planet Mercury, associated with Babylonian Nabu, which is the son of Marduk, was in Sumerian times identified with Enki, as was the star Canopus. Salakia. There you go. Enki was a keeper of the divine powers called Mi, the gifts of civilization. He is often shown with a horned crown of divinity. On the Ada seal, Enki is depicted with two streams of water flowing into each side of his shoulder, one the Tigris, and the other the Euphrates. Alongside him are two trees symbolizing the male and female aspects of nature. He is also wearing a flounced skirt and cone-shaped hat. Imagine your God is a man wearing skirts, and this is who you worship. Listen, Lord be with you. Your God is gay. Salakia. And your God is a rainbow flag waver. An eagle descends from above to land upon his outstretched right arm. This portrayal reflects Enki's role as the god of water, life, and replenishment. So again, we're going back to the same picture, right? To the left is Ishtar. In the middle is Enki with his skirt. They didn't say a garment. They didn't say I don't know what words they use. They say he had a skirt. Your God is a homosexual. You understand? And that's the streams of water depicted, one for the Tigris, one for the Euphrates, the eagle landing on his right arm, but your God is a homosexual. And this is a close-up of your homosexual God with a skirt, who you will worship, who you still worship today. You understand? Salakia. Now, you're going to see it. This is similar to this myth is exactly similar to the Egyptian gods. What's his name? The Egyptian deities that did the same thing. I forgot their name because they're irrelevant. A third time, Enki succumbs to temptation and attempts seduction of Utu. Upset about Enki's reputation, Utu consults Ninhursag, who, upset at the promiscuous, wayward nature of her spouse, advises Utu to avoid the riverbanks. The places likely to be affected by flooding the home of Enki. Why? Because he's the god of water. In another version of this myth, Ninhursag takes Enki's semen from Utu's womb and plants it in the earth, where 8 plants rapidly germinate. All these deities are homosexual deities, from the god wearing a skirt to listen, I'm not even going to read that part again. Salaki. With this two-faced servant and steward Izmud, Enki in the swampland lies stretched out. Pause. What is this plant? What is this plant? His messenger Izmud answers him, "My king, this is the tree plant," he says to him. He cuts it off for him, and Enki, eats it. And so, despite warnings, Enki consumes the other 7 fruit. Consuming his own semen, he falls pregnant, ill with swellings, and in his jaws, his teeth, his mouth, his hip, his throat, his limbs, his side, and his rib. Good night. The gods are at a loss to know what to do. Chagrined, they sit in the dust. As Enki lacks a birth canal through which to give birth, he seems to be dying with swellings. The fox then asks Enlil, king of the gods, "If I bring Ninhursag before thee, what shall be my reward?" Ninhursag, sacred fox, then fetches the goddess. So like some nonsense, right? Ninhursag relents and takes Enki's ab, which is his water or his semen, into her body and gives birth to gods of healing of each part of the body. Abu for the jaw, Nanshi for the throat, Nintul for the hip, Ninsutu for the tooth, Ninkasi for the mouth, Dazimua for the side, and Enshagag for the limbs. The last one, Ninti, which means lady rib, is also a pun for lady life, a title of Ninhursag herself. The story thus symbolically reflects the way in which life is brought forth through the addition of water to the land. And once it grows, water is required to bring plants to fruits. It also counsels balance and responsibility, not to excess. Listen, all the mythology of the heathens are homosexual and bunch of sexual deviancy. Another reason why you should not worship New Year's, you should not worship any of these celebrations that dates back to Babylon, or adopt any heathen custom, because this is what you worship. Now, let's go into some of the superstitions and traditions of the new year, which you adopted, all of them, from your oppressors and from heathens. And then we're going to end the class, right? Skip this one. So having your pantry and cabinets filled to the brim on New Year's signifies good luck. Listen, the Romans were wishing for good luck every January the 1st. We don't wish for luck. Israelite custom, we don't worship luck, or we don't wait for luck, right? Luck is not a pagan god. It's either the Lord is with you or not. You understand? Again, having your pantry and cabinets filled to the brim, it means that you and your family would avoid hardships. Listen, with inflation and our people living in hell in the ghetto, a lot of you don't even have a pantry to fill. Let's leave it at that, right? Let's give this one. In some European cultures, you can find people throwing couches, fridges, and more from their window when the clock strikes midnight. You're about to kill someone. Why? Because you want to do away with the old and welcome the new. Why? Because the Romans were worshiping Janus, who was looking at the old and welcoming the new. with his face looking at the past and the other face looking at the future. About to kill someone, throw the fridge out by the window to do away with the old. Let's see another practice that you adopted from the white man. Grabbing a healthy snack comes with New Year's Day. You can do more than just kickstart your New Year's resolution. In many Latin countries, eating 12 grapes, one for each month of the year, is thought to bring good luck. Again, to all of our Hispanic brothers and sisters, the Brazilians, so on and so forth, we don't deal with luck. The Lord is with us or he's not. There's no 12 months. There's 10 months. There's 12 months because the people who enslaved you made it so. And the reason why you eat grapes is because the Spaniards eat grapes. In Spain, the tradition is to eat one grape at each stroke of midnight. The Spaniard brought that that tradition with them to Latin America. You understand? Let's see some other traditions and then we're going to end it. You may want to run out to get some cash ahead of New Year's Eve. According to superstition, keeping a full wallet will bring financial stability and prosperity for the next 12 months. Listen, y'all are broke. Y'all were broke today. Y'all are going to be broke next week. You understand? Even for those who have money, drug dealers have all the money in the world. And they're not financially stable. How? Because they get all their money seized anyway. You understand? Go overdraw all the money you want. Just like you were in hell yesterday, you will be in hell tomorrow. You were in hell last Wednesday. You'll be in hell next Wednesday on January the 1st. You'll be in hell throughout the year 2025 with or without money in your wallet. Good night. Matam Yad said, throwing a chair, heathens are weird. Heathens are retarded. They believe stupid shit. And we're dumber than the heathens because we follow after the stupid things they believe in. We're not stupid. We're literally the smartest nation on the face of the earth. That's what the Bible says. What? Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 4. No, sorry, chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. You understand? Which we're going to get before we end the class real quick, yeah? In the South, it is considered good luck to include plate of collard greens and black-eyed peas as part of the New Year Eve meal. Listen, do yourself a favor. Don't eat no black-eyed peas. It's not sinful to eat black-eyed peas, but this is what it represents for the New Year. It represents good luck. You eat collard greens and black-eyed peas. Why? Because you want good luck for the New Year. Listen, shout out to my Mexicans, right? Mexicans, damn, shout out to my Mexicans, my Benjamin who eats rice and peas, the Mexicans who make frijoles refritos. We're still in hell. The black-eyed peas don't mean nothing. You understand? You eat black-eyed peas throughout the year, you're still going to be in hell. It don't mean nothing. You eat collard greens throughout the year. It's not going to do anything. You want the proof? You're still in hell. You were eating collard greens in slavery. You started celebrating New Year's in slavery. It never brought you luck. Israelites don't deal with luck. The Lord is with us or he's not. And the heathens know it. If the heathens know it, why don't you know it? Because they keep you in the darkness so that they could keep oppressing the way they are. They make sure you celebrate New Year's next week so that they keep oppressing you next year. While it may be tradition to cheer, blow horns, and sound off noisemakers on New Year's Eve, the exercise is said to come from a superstition. Why? Because making loud noises at midnight is thought to ward off evil. Listen, you could scream Bloody Mary as loud as you want. You were still getting hung a century or two ago. You could yell as much as you want. You're still getting lynched. You're still getting used as gator bait. Good night. You're going to yell Black Lives Matter again. You're still going to get shot by the police. You're not going to ward off evil by making any noise at all. You understand? You know how to ward off evil? You come back to find the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High by coming to the ISUPK and changing your life. That's how you will ward off evil. It is a common practice, common superstition that opening the doors and windows will let the old year out and the new year unimpeded. See, this is stupid. If you never open your window, I don't know how it smells like in your house, right? But opening the window is just going to provide a cool breeze. And in winter, hey, Lord be with you. In the Philippines, it is considered good luck to wear anything with polka dots on New Year's Eve. People who live there surround themselves with other round objects like coins or even round fruits like oranges to welcome wealth in the new year. And they're still broke over there. Just like if you do the same, which you should not follow their custom as they're heathens, you're still going to be broke as well. For many cultures, eating round fruits is believed to bring abundance and prosperity for the new year. In Europe and in the US, tradition calls for 12 round fruits to symbolize each month of the year. But in countries like the Philippines, you're supposed to eat 13, the number considered as lucky. Listen, just the fact that you symbolize 12 months shows that you follow the white man, because the white man created 2 extra months to add it to the calendar. It was never so. In Italy, they do what? They eat lentils, and y'all eat some beans. We know lobster sounds, okay, they said lobster sounds delicious, which is not according to our law. It said don't eat it on New Year's. Why? Lobster is considered as bad luck because crustaceans move backwards. If you're looking towards the future and you don't want anything to hold you back. Which is, again, all the traditions that we keep on adding, we started with the Romans. Then the pagan worship was started by the Babylonians, but then over time, you just implemented stupid traditions about looking at the past. Now let's look toward the future. You can't eat lobster because they swim backwards. So what? They say eat fish because fish swims forward. Listen, don't eat fish on New Year's. Not because it's a sin. It's only a sin to eat fish if it has no fins and no scale, but don't eat fish on New Year's if you're offered in the spirit of New Year's. Why? Because they're going to offer you fish on New Year's because for good luck, because fish swims forward. Listen, don't eat. How about you fast on New Year's just for the spirit of it? How about that? In the Philippines, they believe if you jump higher, you're going to grow taller. I'm going to show you how. See, this is the problem with heathen nonsense. Ask a midget to jump as high as he can. He will still be a midget five years later, every year. Ask them to jump as high as they can. They're not going to grow an inch taller. You understand? In several countries, it's considered good luck and a sign of friendship to break dishes and plates on the homes of those closest to you. Listen, you got to break plates and dishes to wish good luck to your friends and family. You're going to come back home. You're going to argue with your spouse. You're going to break plates and dishes by throwing it at each other after the new year. Don't be making no mess in front of my house. Baba Kusha. You understand? Because I'm not going to clean it up. Talking about clean up. A lot of people will avoid cleaning up. Why? Because they don't want to clean up the good luck. They don't want to sweep away the good luck or wipe away the good luck that is headed their way. Some people will clean up. Why? Because they want a fresh start. They want to make sure the house is clean and to welcome the good luck in their house. And to not leave the old dirt from the previous year in their house. Again, all these traditions are superstitions that you started making up as time goes on, but you adopted everything from the Romans, who adopted everything from the Babylonians. We're going to end it in a minute. A kiss at the stroke of midnight can be more than a sweet gesture to show your significant other how much you care. But in ancient Rome and Scotland, the exercise was thought to prevent a year of loneliness. Keep in mind that in ancient Rome, just like they were kissing under the mistletoe, it was a sign to start a drunken orgy. That's it. You're going to kiss all types of strangers on New Year's to say you're not going to be lonely. But guess what? On New Year's, you will kiss whoever you kiss. You're still going to be a whore packing up bodies. You'll kiss whoever you kiss. And you will end up with a few baby mothers putting you on child support. That's what's going to happen next week. You understand? Somebody's going to probably get the monkeypox. When the clock strikes at midnight again, revelers are supposed to kiss someone they love. It's not about stealing a smooch either. According, the tradition comes from the English and German folklore, which believe that it's the first person with whom a person came in contact that dictates the year's destiny. So choose a partner wisely. Lord be with y'all. Y'all about to have all type of sexual deviancy next year. As a matter of fact, y'all probably were partying this weekend. An Ecuadorian superstition calls for burning photos of old memories in order to make way for the new things to come. You're going to burn pictures that you'll never get back. Then you're going to regret it down the line. You understand? Why? Because listen, here's the thing, right? You have to burn the picture before midnight so that it don't make it to the new year. You could burn all the pictures of the Caucasian people. They're still going to oppress you 5 months, the next week. They're going to oppress you the next week. The Ecuadorian people are so oppressed. I've been to Ecuador myself. I've seen the oppression over there. Burn all the pictures you want on New Year's Eve on December 31st. They're still going to be oppressed by the descendant of the Spaniards. Understand? They're still going to be oppressed by the devil the Bible speaks of, who is the most despicable race of the face of the earth, who is the Caucasian race. So burn all the pictures you want. The only way you could get a relief from this oppression until Christ comes back is by coming into the I.S.U.P.K and the commanded Joel YAHANNA. And you don't have to burn pictures coming into the UPK. But you have to change yourself. Right? Yeah, again, the mistletoe, we're going to skip over those real quick for time's sake, right? The mistletoe, which is associated with Christmas, again, which is part, as we seen, last week or 2 weeks ago, it's part of pagan worship, and it's associated with the sun god, right? You're going to, in Christmas, it was a sign to start an orgy, kissing on the mistletoe. It's no different New Year's. Again, Greece, hang onions because they grow while nobody sees. So they think, you know, if we let it be and let things be, we're gonna have a good year if we let things be, or whatever nonsense, right? Again, the black eyed peas, Salakia. This one, it says revelers can sit, clink a glass, and let the new year wash over them. But in Denmark, which goes back to what Matanya just said, how heathens are stupid. Denmark, they stand on a chair and they literally leap off the chair into the new year. You understand? This is how stupid heathens are. You make traditions based off Roman worship to jump into the new year. Listen, I better not see any of my brothers and sisters hop on a chair and jump into the new year, right? Guess what's going to happen? You're going to try to jump into the new year. The chair is going to break. And you're going to break your face or your ankle. Why? Because you decided to worship a Roman god. You don't jump into the new year, which is not even the new year. Stop following heathens and the stupid things that they do. So what's going to happen? You're going to hop on the chair. You're going to try and jump into the new year. You're going to break your ankle. You understand why? Because there's no such thing as luck. Either the Lord is with you or he's not. And if you do something stupid like the Danish do, he's definitely not going to be with you. He's most likely going to make sure you break your ankle. You don't try this stupid thing ever again. In Germany, they offer you like pigs and lucky pennies because, you know, for luck. All these things they do for luck. Making some type of bread, right? In Latin American countries, the color of underwear you wear on December 31st, right, is going to affect your new year. Yellow is going to be for luck. Red is for love. White undies for peace. Guess what? The color of underwear you wear during the celebration of the New Year is not going to matter. You're all going to have a orgy. You're all going to catch the monkeypox. None of y'all will be wearing underwear. That's the point. Why? Because just like the Romans did, they're going to have, some nasty deviant sex. You're going to end up with the monkeypox. You're going to end up with baby mothers. You're going to end up with like 4 or 5 baby fathers or prospects. And that's what's going to happen. Your color of the underwear don't matter. Nobody's supposed to know what you're wearing under there unless it's your spouse. And even your spouse don't matter. They don't even care because they're going to take it off anyways. You understand? And then, apparently, in Colombia, if you run with an empty suitcase around the block as fast as you can, it's guaranteed you're going to travel. And some woman in Florida believed that. She did it with her Colombian husband, right? And she said they were worried that they were going to get the police call on them. Why? Because they're Hispanic and they're running with luggage as if they stole something, right? Coincidentally, they went to Colombia and they thought it worked. Guess what? They would have probably went to Colombia regardless. Why? Because the husband's Colombian. Going to visit his family in Colombia. All these traditions and practices don't work. They never did. They never will. It's superstition. Luck doesn't exist. The new year, listen, you're broke today. You're going to be broke next week. You wishing to stop smoking cigarettes in the new year, listen, stop smoking cigarettes now. How about that? Don't wait till next Wednesday. Because next Wednesday, you're going to go to 2 packs of cigarettes. You're going to smoke all the weed that night. You understand? You're going to want, you're going to want to stop being a whore. You're going to be a whore for January 1st. Some women believe their body counts resets every January 1st, and then they're even bigger whores the following year. The New Year resolution, you got that from the Babylonians, right? And then you got all these superstitions from the Romans. That's it. That's where New Year come from. And all these gods that you worship are sexual deviant gods. They're homosexuals, right? And that's pretty much the pagan origins of all the celebrations you partake in throughout the year. And this coming Wednesday. But guess what we do in the ISUPK, which is what you should do as an Israelite, which is a so-called Black, Latino, Native American Indian. We open up the Feast of Dedication last Wednesday, sundown, which is Hanukkah. We're going to close it. You understand? This is a feast we have for 8 days. Instead of celebrating the so-called New Year, which stems from the I.S.U.P.K festival, the Babylonian I.S.U.P.K festival of 11 days, you should be observing Hanukkah right now for 8 days. You understand? This is what you should be doing instead of following these disgusting, filthy, homosexual heathens, jumping into the new year, leaping from a chair, breaking your neck, and resulting into breaking your neck. You understand? God is not with you if you wish for luck, right? The heathens know it. Let's get that precept real quick, and then we're going to end the class, right? And read the security announcements. Let's get these 2 precepts to know what day you should observe or not, what day matters or not, right? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 33. We're going to start at verse 7 and going to go to Judith, verse 5, verse 20. Right. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 3, verse 7. Why doth one day excel another? Why is one day more important than another? When as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun. Listen, every single day there's going to be light of the sun. Every single day the sun is going to shine on it, right? And going to bring warmth and things like that. This is how you know what day you should observe or not. By the knowledge of the Lord, they were distinguished. God tells you which day to celebrate or not. You want to know which day is a so-called holiday, which is really a holy day, a holy convocation. The book of Leviticus, chapter 23. Right now, right? We're observing the Feast of Hanukkah, which is a memorial, a remembrance, right? It's our culture. Understand, which you can find in the book of First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse what, 54 to 61, if I'm not mistaken. But this is how you know which day to observe or not, because God said so. By the knowledge of the Lord, they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. He's the one who altered season and feast, not the Romans, who added 2 months to the calendar and who named them after their, I always got to say the F word, by their homosexual god. You understand? Not the Romans, who you decide to follow, and then you're going to, guess what? January the 1st, all you Haitians are going to celebrate the Day of Independence of Haiti, January the 1st, 1804, and still celebrate New Year's. You are a hypocrite. You're not proud to be a Haitian because you follow after the white man. Yeah, that part. You understand? Go to verse 9. Verse 9 says what? Some of them had he made high days and hallowed them. To hallow, or to render holy, to sanctify, which means to set apart. And some of them he made ordinary days. Next Wednesday is just any ordinary day during winter. Next Wednesday is going to be a cold day, just like today. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's go to Judah chapter 5, verse 20. This is what matters. Luck don't matter. Luck, who cares about luck? Luck is stupid. It's the worship of another pagan god. We're going to make a whole class about luck. We don't deal with luck. This is what we deal with. Judah chapter 5, verse 20. Now, therefore, my Lord and governor, if there be any error against this people, if we make any mistake, that's what it means. That's what an error is. You understand? And for Israelites, what is an error? Is to disobey God. Right? If there be any error against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin. It's not because we're unlucky. You understand? Let's keep reading. And let us go up and we shall overcome them. The heathens know there's no such thing as luck. They make this up. Just like as we've seen, the Babylonians worship whatever god they worship because they feel like it. They make up things as they go. So the Romans and the Greeks and so on. The heathens know there's no such thing as luck. Luck is something they made up because they felt like it. Just like the Arabs decided to worship a rock because Muhammad, his tribe, worship a black rock. That's why they all worship a rock. Not because it has powers or because they were able to conquer the land because of bowing down to a rock. No. It has nothing to do with it. All the nations overthrew us and conquered us. Why? If there be any error against this people and they sin against their God, that's why. Let us consider this shall be their ruin, and let us go up and we shall overcome them. That's the only way nations could overcome us, not because we're unlucky or we ran out of luck. Matter of fact, do yourself a favor and work on removing that word from your vocabulary. Good luck, or you ran out of luck, throw out the window. What do you think? Listen, it's either the Lord be with you or the Lord was not with you. That's it. And when we kept going to captivity because the Lord was not with us. Why? Because we decided to worship the sun like these stupid heathens. Heathens are retarded. Like Matamia said, heathens are weirdos. They throw shit out the window to say, let us be done away with the old and welcome the new. So you're going to throw a fridge out the window, almost killing someone so you could just buy a new fridge? Why don't you just give the fridge to a charity or something? Heathens are stupid. And we follow these stupid people. So now, imagine you following idiots. What does that make you? It wasn't an idiot. Let's read verse 20 and read one more precept and then we're done with the class. Yeah? This is the luck they talk about, which is not luck. The Lord is with us, or he's not. Judah chapter 5, verse 21. But if there is no iniquity, you understand what is iniquity? Iniquity is sin. Sin is transgression of the law. If there is no transgression of the law, meaning what? If we do not disobey the Most High, if we don't go against what he told us to do, and if we don't, and not to do. You understand? If we obey his instructions, that's the point. If there is no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by. The heathen say, listen, if they act right, they listen to their God, let's not touch them. Let's just, pass by and ignore them. Right? As we pass by them, let's bow our head down and not even look at them in the eye. Lest their Lord defend them and their God be for them. Again, God is with us or he's not. And we become a reproach before all the world. They'll be made an example. Why? Because they dare touch the hair of an Israelite. Now our God is dealing with them, just like he dealt with the Egyptians. You understand? There's no luck. The Lord is with you or he's not. Let's go to Deuteronomy 4 and 5 to show you that you're stupid if you follow the heathen, because this is how you know you're smart. This is how you know you have intelligence, how you have knowledge and wisdom, by not following the heathens, by following your culture, which is the law, statutes, and commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. We're going to read 5 and 6, and then we're going to end the class. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments. A statute is a law. A judgment is what come with disobeying the statute or the law. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. This is what we have to do, to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 6, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. Which nations? The stupid nations worshiping rocks, sun, rats, bats. What do they worship? They worship cows. They worship a gay god of water wearing a skirt. This is our knowledge and understanding. We have the law. We have the commandments to not worship any other God but the God of the Bible, as this is the only God. We read in Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 11, the heathens never changed their gods, which are no gods, because a rock is a rock. You're going to bow down 7 times, circle it around and kiss it. It's not stopping the Israelis from bombing the Palestinians right now. You understand? The Babylonians worship a gay god of water, and he impregnated himself, apparently. And what do? The Babylonians are right now, they're the modern day Ethiopians, the Eritreans, and what is it? The pirate nation, the Somalis. Listen, what is their gay god doing for them? Making sure, it's not preventing them from starving. And he will never prevent them from starving, because he can do nothing. Jeremiah 2:11 said that the heathens never changed their gods, which yet are not gods. They're nothing. They're made up. It's the sun. The sun do nothing but shine and brings heat. And, brings UV light for the photosynthesis of the grass and the plants. That's it. The sun is not your God. The moon is not a god. The heathens look at the stars, think it's beautiful, and start worshiping shiny things. Even a crow or a raven, which literally has a bird brain, sees something shiny, collects it. The bird is collecting your God, while you worship what the birds are collecting. You understand? Let's finish this verse real quick. Which shall hear these statutes and say, surely this nation is a wise and understanding people. This is why you're dumber than a bag of rocks. Why? Because you don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. If you would not follow or worship the same God these stupid heathens worship. You would not stand on a chair and literally leap into the new year. You will not, in Latin America, you will not eat grapes, because the Spaniard taught you to eat grapes on New Year, right? 1 for each month, so you can bring luck into your life. You will not do that. You understand? You will know sex is marriage, so you will not wait for the midnight clock to kiss someone in the hope that there's going to be your partner for life. Guess what? You're going to kiss someone in New Year. The next week, you're going to kiss 5 other niggas. You're going to kiss a woman in New Year. The next week, you're going to sleep with 5 other women who you're not going to keep. And the heathens are going to keep on oppressing you because of that. You understand? So this is going to be the end of the class. This was the pagan origins of New Year's Eve. The New Year's celebration, again, comes from the Roman pagan worship of Janus, which the month January was named after, which originated with the Babylonian festival of Akitu, where they worshipped the son of a homosexual god who's impregnated himself. Don't follow after the heathens. Right? Jeremiah 10 verse 2. Don't follow after the heathens. That's the conclusion. Now, next Thursday, we're back with the Brotherhood class in English. You understand? Next Thursday, we're back with the Brotherhood class in English. Next Sunday, we'll have to rerun the New Year's class, but in French. You understand? And then we're going to get back to the history of slavery in Canada, which is extremely taboo. We're going to get back to the history of slavery in Canada, and we're going to disprove the fact that fake Israelites say the natives and the Hispanic were never slaves, so they can't be Israelites. Guess what? Spoiler alert, 2/3 of slaves in Canada were so-called indigenous or Native American, Amerindians, however you want to call them. With that said, I'm Priest and Officer 500 Barak Yalla to what up for everybody who tuned in. Instead, Matami out of Simalakama, the Zamana. Hey, real quick, Salakia. Let me scroll up a bit. Real quick, shout out to Officer Malakma. Congratulations to Officer Malakma, who became an officer of 1,000. Big up to Officer Malakma, Ban Yashakar, my Mexican brother, you understand? Ban Yamshakar, Salakia. You understand? Big up to Officer Malakma. Congratulations on the rank raise. With that, I'm going to get the security announcements. We're going to end the class, Israel. We're going to see you next Thursday. Shalom. Oh, Salakia. Also, big shout out to Officer Kamada Ban Yashakar as well for being raised to Officer 1,000. Salakia. The ISUPK security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they're off limits for 6 months. They're to be saluted only. They're here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After the 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. Means 10th in the Hebrew, ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocation. We're currently in the feast of dedication, which is Hanukkah, which is the 25th day of the 9th month by the space of 8 days. Which started, we opened it on December the 25th for the span of 8 days. You can read more about it in the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 52 to 61. Reminded the Akim and the Quatin to check the bulletin board in the hallway of the school to have a physical location. And if anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pants, headband, and scarf. But that's it. We'll give a courtesy salute to the brothers and a courtesy salute to the sisters. Benavision Imajim, which means to stand. We'll give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Benavision Imajim Shabbat. Majim, Barak, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Brakatham, which means Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless y'all. Yajamata, which means hands down. Sar, which means to turn. To turn and face the sisters if you have any in your presence. We'll give them a courtesy salute as well. Benavision Imajim Shabbat. Imajim, Barak, Yahweh Shemar, Alatham Bahashim Yahweh Shai, meaning Yahweh, watch over y'all in the name of Yahweh Shai. Yajamata, class dismissed. So again, for anyone who tuned in, make sure y'all tune in to next Thursday for her class in English. Sunday will be the same history class in French. And we'll get back into the history of slavery throughout the Caribbean, the Americas, but we'll deal with Canada first. All right? Shalom.
Yeah. You ready? Nah, I mean, is you ready? Somebody ready for war? That easy. Like What's up? Wise man mad. They ready for war. Getting all blacks is a trooper. Plan, plot, strategize, crucial. Gotta pick a side, no neutral. In the middle of a war as usual. Watch your back, they shoot. If your ops drop, better keep it moving. All we do is win, no losing. In the middle of a war as usual. In the middle of a war as usual. In the middle of a war as usual. Plan, plot, strategize, crucial. In the middle of a war as usual.
Negros y indios nativos somos los verdaderos israelitas. ¿Esto dónde lo dice? Esto dice en la Biblia.
Show that Puerto Ricans love America, but that ain't reality.
Police attack was planned beforehand. Only white cops will sign.
Then our only recourse is to defend ourselves.
We tried to move people onto the sidewalk, but the police wore out for blood.
Another series of protests was staged by thousands of students, parents, and the Brown Berets. In June 1968, the group that had become known as the East LA 13 was released on bail.
Demonstrate to our people and we deserve better and that we could, get better.
I don't think there's ever been a time when we need more of the spirit of the young lords than today.
I guess we had no fear. We just did what we think, what we thought at the time was the right thing to do.
National captain of the Black Panther Party. They are making it their business to process arresting me and my wife, to a process arresting numerous Panthers on the block.
Police just went in and started beating them viciously. It was ugly. They were just yelling at us, you dirty spicks, dirty Mexicans, who do you think you are?
Hey, listen, brothers and sisters, man. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, man. Subscribe to this channel. And also, please, go to isupk.com and pay your tithe. Drop me some cash so we can move around this planet like we need to, man, and do the things we need to do.
Everyone west.